Hey guys, it's Ian here with Hobbies of Man once again, and today we're going to be doing another book review. We're going to be looking at Ghostwater, book 5 in the Cradle series. This is still written by Will White. It's still published by Hidden Gnome, which is his own publisher. It's also still an adult novel, at least to my estimation. You know, you might disagree with that. That's fine. I just don't think that teenagers are that interested in this. And I don't think I've ever seen anyone younger than, 25 talk about this series. So, yeah. In terms of genre, this is a progression fantasy. It's specifically a cultivation type series, and it's not lit RPG, but it kind of gets bundled into all of those types of stories because it is what it is, right? It does not have an adaptation, although there is an animation in the works for the first book, so there may come a time when this has an adaptation, but that is not right now, right? And the rating for this novel is a 4.5 out of 5. I actually like this better than Skysworn, which seems to be a bit of an unpopular opinion, but that's because I think most people don't like when Linden gets stuck in one place for a long time, right? If that makes sense. In the previous book, I liked it less than this one because it feels more like setup to me than this one, which seems kind of weird, but hopefully I can kind of express that properly throughout the review, right? So, yeah, the premise here is that this is the training arc. This is the middle portion of this segment of storytelling where Linden has to power up to be able to continue on to the next part, right? And Linden and crew, everyone that's with him, which is Renfei and Byro and Mercy and Yeren, are all sent on a mission to this place called Ghostwater, which happens to be a pocket dimension or a bubble world or something created by Northstrider. We know who Northstrider is because Linden saw him in a vision 2 years ago when Serial met him. But apparently the knowledge of Black Flame, like the Black Flame knowledge base thinks that Northstrider has been dead for 5 years. But technically the place has just been abandoned and Northstrider is still alive. People just think he's dead for some reason. And when they get to this pocket dimension, they find new groups of people that are nebulous. You don't know if they're good guys or bad guys. And then everyone gets separated, and it's time to battle and train and grow, right? So overall, I think this was a much more fun book. I really liked it because there was more development here than I think there was in the previous book. Even though Linden did have the big moment that he was training for, I don't feel that moment was really handled as this momentous occasion that it seemed like it should have been handled like. And Linden hadn't really grown as a person much. I think in this one is when we really get all of that, character development for Linden, mostly because he's separated from everyone, right? So that's why I really like this book. In terms of the plot line, the Bleeding Phoenix has gone back to sleep after fighting for 5 days and 5 nights or something against Akira, what's her name? Malice, I think that's her name. The main Akira family member, the one that's a monarch. I think her name is Akira Malice. And it has gone back to bed, but part of its process is that it sprouts a bunch of different blood shadow or blood spawn seeds, and so there's the ground is now populated by these little red eggs, right? And one of them attaches itself and hatches and attaches itself to this low time gold from this odd city in the middle of nowhere, right? Actually, I think it's a little town, and somehow this blood shadow, this blood spawn, allows this guy to basically end up being the strongest person in town, and he kind of sets up his own little dictatorship here. And Linden arrives, and it's really tense. I really like this, and it also highlights something that I really love that I always forget, and that is that Linden, for all of his niceties and his tendency to apologize and be gentle and stuff, apparently looks like a fucking murderer, right? Like he has like crazy black eyes because of the Black Flame gold sign. He's gigantic, he's tall, and because he's really tall, and because of like the way his face is structured, as well as his like normal resting face, he just looks like he's scowling all of the time, right? And it's really funny that this guy is like worried because, you know, the Skysworn are coming, right? So there's a problem. And then he sees Linden. He's like, oh shit, this guy is like fucked up. This guy is dangerous. And then Linden just kind of goes along and is really nice to this guy. And he's just like, hey man, what's going on? How you doing? Is everyone okay here? And then because of the corruptive nature of the Blood Shadow, this guy, who was already mean and evil and crazy, decides that Linden is mocking him, I think, and decides to attack Linden. And Linden casually murders this guy. He fights him in self-defense and saves the people of this town. But he does it pretty easily. And it's kind of interesting to see that Linden is realizing that he's like, you know, a warrior that is very powerful. And it's kind of funny to notice that Linden is realizing this, right? There's another time that he does this. Actually, in the previous book, I didn't really talk about it, where Linden approaches a guy, and this guy gets mad at him, and so they start fighting, and Linden just punches him once, and like basically caves in this guy's chest, right? And Mercy heals him at that point. But it's really nice to see these moments of clarity, of knowledge where, okay, Linden is getting up there. He is becoming a very powerful, dangerous character. His attitude just needs to change a little bit for that to really, really work, right? So I really enjoy that. I think it's really, really fun. So yeah, Linden kills this guy. They save the town, and they kind of just leave. They don't really like help the town, you know, feel better or anything. They just leave to the next mission. And that next mission is go to the Trackless Sea, enter the Ghostwater pocket dimension, and explore and see what's going on, right? It turns out that once they get there, the door is already open, which is a problem. This means that there's stuff going on that, you know, the Black Flame is not aware of. And it turns out that that thing that they weren't aware of is that all of the like monarch level people, or all of the different powerhouses in this continent, which is 6 different monarchs, I think, all send their best pupils to this place once a year for the last like 10 or 15 years or so, or every 4 years or something. I can't remember exactly the timeline, but they send people here every once in a while. The Black Flame was not aware of this because they weren't high level enough to know, and they have accidentally stumbled across this situation while it's happening. They think that, or the people that are already there think that this is an incursion or a way to attack them, and so they just try to kill them. And Linden and Renfei send off a message to Biro, Mercy, and Yeren, and then close the door. Linden closes the door in order to save Yeren, because he doesn't want her to die. And then Renfei just gets sliced in two by Akura, what's his name? Harmony, I think. And Linden, alongside Orthos, is trapped in this, Ghostwater pocket dimension with no way out except going through the pocket dimension. And he's facing people that are way stronger than him. And so he has to find a way to overcome this. Thankfully, though, the Ghostwater is a treasure trove because it used to be a science facility. I'm not sure if it was a soulsmithing facility or a forging facility or some other kind of thing. It was like basically all of the things together in order to try to create something like a presence, which is basically like the Abadan version of a dirge, right? And this is what this world is supposed to be for. No one really understands that. Everyone just thinks that it's just a random place that Northstrider abandoned. And Linden starts to figure that out throughout the book, right? So that was kind of a high-level view at what happens later. What actually happens when Renfei is killed is that Linden has to find a way to escape. He and Orthos end up fighting this other dragon lady, and she happens to be part of the, let's see, I wrote it down here. Okay, so we find Harmony Akura, and then Ekarina Thoth, T-O-T-H, so Thought. I'll go with Thoth because that's easier for me to say. Ekarina Thoth, who is a golden dragon person-ish. So apparently, when sacred beasts, which dragons are, advance high enough, they can take on a human appearance. And she is a high gold, and so she has begun that transformation into a human-like appearance. And they do this in order to copy their monarch, who somehow looks like a little boy, which is kind of like a reuse of that trope or that setup from the first book where Linden has to fight that one guy that trapped himself in a child's body. So it's kind of interesting. I like that. There's also something really like unsettling about this little tiny child that can just murder everyone, right? That's cool. And they also meet Zeal, who we are not really sure who he's attached to at this moment, and someone called Jan Chomei. And I think Jan Chomei gets killed or disappears. They end up being not important because they don't show up again. And Renfei is sliced in two. Linden destroys the portal to keep Yiren safe, and he escapes Ekarina by swimming towards the next habitat. Ekarina follows, or Ekari follows, and Orthos is hurt by her, I think, because he's at a lower level than her to an extent, or he has less abilities than her in some way. I can't remember, but Orthos is hurt very, very badly, and all of the True Gold people disperse because they're there for a treasure hunt. They were waiting for the last person to show up. That person can no longer show up because Linden destroyed the portal, so the game is on regardless. So they just all disperse and go off hunting. Ekari decides that Linden probably has some good stuff in him or with him in his giant pack, so she's just gonna wait him out. And so they get to this habitat. Ekari arrives. They have to fight these sacred beast fish, who happen to be very full of Madra, very, very high level. And they escape into this facility within the habitat that locks, and so Ekari cannot chase them. So she just waits around for 3 days while they starve, basically. And this is kind of the start of Linden's power up, right? So the fish allow him to gain Madra and to cycle and to grow his spirit because they're so full of Madra and life energy that they just boost him, right? And Orthos actually manages to get something good out of this too. But the real kind of great thing here is that they end up approaching a well that has overflown. And within this well is a weird little ball thing that is a remnant, and where actually it's a dirge, I think, that because of this constant influx of this well and the power that comes from it, which is Dream Madra, it has gained a certain level of consciousness, right? And so this thing is special. It's somewhat of a remnant, somewhat of a construct, and it tells them all about this dream well, and it tells them, you know, you can use this to train because it heals your need for sleep. It makes you a bit sharper, and it helps you concentrate more. So this is a really valuable bit of thing, a bit of sacred art tool, I guess is what you would call this. And so they abuse the hell out of it. Like, actually, they just drink it like crazy. And because it has like mental healing capabilities, it actually helps Orthos a lot. So Orthos actually ends up kind of going through more changes here than Linden does because of the value that these things, have, right? So this is like, ultimately it's for Linden to grow, but it also helps Orthos get to a state where he's going to be useful to us as the journey progresses further on beyond what, Orthos can really do right now. So I really like this. I think this is really, really nice. It is kind of annoying in the sense that, Linden just got all of this handed to him. But at the same time, Linden has to constantly fight for the right to do this because, anytime he goes and faces a True Gold, he could die very easily. And that kind of level of difficulty maintains itself throughout the book, right? I mean, technically, I know that he's not going to die because there's 7 more books, right? But within the time that you're reading, it's pretty easy to forget that fact, right? So I really liked it. I think that Will White did a good job with balancing this out, right? So it turns out that this contract thing is called Dross, and he gets bound to the Eye of the Deep because the Eye of the Deep is the key that allows them to open this gate, right? And they need it at the end of the habitat, at the end of the Ghostwater place, in order to open the door. But Dross is damaged, and the Eye of the Deep is damaged. And so what Linden does is combine them in order to remove the damage from both of them, right? And he can do this because he has soul-smithing abilities thanks to Future Geisha. And it's really fun when he gets to do this because it's not something that happens all that often, so I like it. And so while Linden is inside Ghostwater and really enjoying the water from this place, Yeren is really angry and really upset that Linden made sure that she wouldn't be able to go help him. Akura Charity is a sage, and she shows up. She brings them into her castle place thing that she has, and they get questioned. I really like how Yeren just doesn't give a shit, and she just talks to all of these people like she would talk to anyone else, even though they could immediately smite her. And I think that actually gains her some points with certain people. Specifically, I think it gains her a little bit of points here with Akura Charity, because she and maybe it's because Akura Charity doesn't really care that much, and because they're kind of tied to Akura Mercy, they're like, okay, well, we won't kill them, right? Although they really could. And so Yeren gets some answers out of this, but not enough to satisfy her. But they kind of know what they have to do. Byro gets kept, and he doesn't show up until later, I think. Actually, I don't. He doesn't show up in this book, so we assume that he's dead the whole time. We learn about Mercy. So basically, she's been exiled from her family. It's unclear about why that is at this point, but basically they let her leave, and in order to leave, she had to basically have her powers removed. So she's actually at the same level as Yeren and Linden, but because of the situation, she got bound, so she's lower than she really is, and we learn some about that here. We also learn about Ghostwater and how the different monarchs have been using this as a training ground, and we kind of know this already because I already told it to you, so we're not gonna talk about it too much. And basically, we also learned that there's this tournament coming. And this tournament is important because it is a way for the monarchs to show off to each other, but also a way to kind of figure out who's going to be the next really important person on this continent, right? And so, this preparation here in Ghostwater is in order to set up everyone better for that competition because it's coming around and more people are being allowed to enter than usual. So, pretty exciting stuff coming here, right? So, yeah, we're back to Linden here. He's healing with the healing well, and they need it really deeply for Orthos specifically, but Akari is blocking the path. So Linden and Orthos decide that they have to practice the Void Dragon stance so that Linden has a proper way to attack Akari that will kill her, right? They do this for a while, I think like 2 weeks. And then Orthos finally gives Linden one last pep talk before sending him out to fight her. And it's time for battle, and it's hard as hell, and it's really, really badass. And he manages to distract her with the Dragon Dance, so he doesn't even actually use it to kill her. Then he empty palms her. It fucks her up because she's like a sacred beast, right? So my understanding is that it disrupts her even more than it disrupts a normal person that is used to having their Madra going around, right? And then he Dragon Breaths like through her, like he uses like a special beam, right, like Piccolo, and he just like shoves a beam of Dragon's Breath through her chest and murders her, and it's great. I loved it. I thought it was an awesome battle. I really, really liked it, and it was nice that it wasn't just Linden being smarter. It was also like the fact that he's just powerful now, and I really appreciate that. So I think that was cool. She ports out to see if anyone can heal her, but it's too late. The gold dragons go crazy outside. They're really, really angry. And this makes them go hard on Mercy and Yeren, who also are attached to the Skysworn. They know that a Skysworn killed her sister, so they start trying to kill them as well. Then Linden gets the Void Key, which is basically a hammer space, right? So he can open this Void Key, and it gives him like a closet that he can just use. And he gets it from all of the stuff that Akari drops. So looting the body of the other sacred artist, which was Akari's plan, is actually what Linden gets to do, and he gets some cool tools out of this, right? So the Void Key gives them the ability to move a bunch of this water stuff from the Dreamwell into the next habitat, and usually, and this is useful because this means that he'll also be able to take it out of the Ghostwater. So that's really, really cool. Move on to the next habitat. They have to battle a giant sea serpent that eats those fish that, you know, almost killed Linden. And then they find Zeal. And I like this guy. The way he's described, I just think of Loki. Not like Tom Hiddleston, but like nearly the same as Tom Hiddleston, just a bit younger, and maybe with like a more depressed kind of vibe to him, right? Because Tom Hiddleston's Loki is not really depressed. He's just kind of like angry at the world, or angry at like certain circumstances. He just has like trauma, right? But Zeal is like depressed. Like he doesn't care. Like he wants to die, but because he's still so powerful, even though he has problems, he really can't, right? And it turns out that Zeal is a bit of a sad boy. They drink from the spirit well, and this actually helps Linden a lot. It helps him to strengthen his Madra path and to be more clean, right? So it helps him actually with the Black Flame drawbacks, and it also helps Orthos a lot. This is actually probably the best part for Orthos, because the damage to his mind is gone, but now the damage to his spirit is gone as well. So this is awesome. And I think that Little Blue also drinks from this, and it helps her a bit too, but I can't remember exactly how. And then we learned that Zeal has a shattered core. And at this point I was like, well, Linden can do something about that, right? Because he did that for Jay Chen. But apparently it's not the same. This is like his spirit is broken and jagged, whereas Jay Chen, her spirit was like twisted, right? So it's not the same thing. Linden could fix her spirit by just untangling it. There's no way to glue Zeal's body together, right? His spirit together again. At least not at this moment. And the spirit well doesn't really help him do this. So this sucks. Linden advances, Dross actually. So Dross goes into the eye of the deep. He gains a certain level of like self, right? He has now a body and a soul. Then he advances with the spirit water, and so he becomes more real. And then Linden develops an enforcer technique for the twin star path, which means he creates a cloak for himself. He bases it off the burning cloak, right, from the Black Flame path, but he also uses information and data that Zeal gives him about other people in other groups, and he basically takes the idea that maybe he shouldn't think of his Madra as like fire Madra. He should think of it more as water, and so this allows him to flow. And he also takes advantage or takes in knowledge from Ikari, the way that she would fight, the way that she would empower herself. So Linden is getting someplace, and it's really great that he's not neglecting his twin star path now, thanks to the fact that, you know, he has time and at this point energy to devote to developing it, right? So I like that. This is also a really great weapon for him going forward. So really good stuff all around. We take a break here from Linden and stuff to go to Ethan, who is going to the Emperor. He gets denied an audience, which is crazy because he shouldn't, right? He's basically Naruhuans or Hawans, or however you say his name, one of his few friends, and also like a really meaningful member of society. But because he is no longer a patriarch, Naruhuan uses this as a way to not have to meet with him. And he basically is like, you have to kill an underlord before you can talk to me. So Ethan gets sent out to hunt the Red Moon Hall. He fights Longhook, and he beats him with a really awesome thing that he used, that he got Fisher Geisha to make. So Geisha made a Death Star beam cannon thanks to Linden and Ethan's abilities with Pure Madra. And they use this to knock Longhook down, damage him enough, and then Ethan just murders him with some Pure Madra techniques. He basically just makes spears out of Pure Madra and destroys him with them. And it's really, really cool. I really like this. And I think he also does this technique where he creates little stars, and these stars just, you know, poke holes into this character. So good stuff. We return to the girls, who are kind of fighting to get to the other portal at the other side of the Trackless Sea, or on the other side of this island on the Trackless Sea. And Mercy shows off her path. She has the Path of 7 Pages or something like that, or the Book of 7 Pages. And this is based on, and I think we learned this in the next book, but I'll tell you a little bit about it here. It's based on her family, like her mom, who is Akira Malice. the way that she went through a path and decided that there was other ways to do it. And so she created these books that all have 7 different techniques in them, and each of these techniques correlates to a certain like level, right? And so Mercy can only go up to the end of the first page, but she can use later pages at the price of like and get a power up at the price of like being weak for a long time afterwards. So it's really cool stuff. I really like this. I think this is a really interesting way to go about creating paths, because we don't really know how they get created. We just kind of understand that, you know, one guy did it and then he made everyone else in his family do it, and then they cultivated this for a long time, right? And then eventually they like stratified it and made it like a path to follow, but that's not necessarily like all that clear. And it also doesn't account for the fact that everyone's a little bit different, but the way that the Akuras do it does account for that. So that's really, really cool. I really like how this works out. I think this is really good information here, right? So yeah. And then they get attacked by Sophara, who I can't remember if she's a high gold, or sorry, a true gold, or if she's like a sage of some sort. She's like a really high level dragon person, and she tries to kill them because they murdered her sister, or Linden murdered her sister. But Zio and the Beast King show up to protect them, and this is really cool. I really like the scene. Zio helped Linden escape, and then he left because he, you know, had no reason to be here anymore because the spirit well doesn't heal him. And he comes out, and then the Beast King gets him to go help the girls out because they're interesting, right? So he shows up. He tells Sephora, you know, you're killing these people that don't deserve to be killed. You're taking advantage of the fact that you're so high above them, and I am witness to this. Are you going to do this? Sephora tries to ignore him, and then this giant mammoth just kind of rumbles a little bit, and Sephora backs down, or is forced to back down by her subordinates. So really cool stuff here. I like this. Then we come back to Linden, and he and the boys, at this point, Orthos and Dross, continue to grow and train. They make it to the next habitat. They drink from the life well, and this doesn't do anything for Linden because he's so young and healthy as it is. But it does a lot for Orthos. It gives him 100 years of youth back. So he's, you know, spry as heck, and he really, really enjoys this. And this finishes off the transformation for Orthos. He is now at peak condition, or as close to peak condition as he's ever been. So this is great stuff. I like that. It also does something for Dross, but I can't remember. I think this finally gives him like a physical, actual, like real body. Like he has skin and arms and an eyeball at this point and a mouth, which I don't think he actually needs. He just has them because that's what life is, apparently. Well, Harmony shows up to steal Dross at this point because we learned that Harmony got to the place he had to get to, and the Eyes of the Deep are actually a way to get knowledge out of Northstrider's research. And so you take the Eye of the Deep, you give it to this, you know, life tree or whatever, and then you ask it a question. Because it takes back the Eye of the Deep, it gives you a drop of Ghostwater, which is like the epitome of the research that Northstrider did, even though it doesn't actually solve what needs to be solved, or, you know, basically doesn't do what he wanted it to do. But it allows people to advance their mind beyond what they are capable of normally, and so it allows you to get closer to Underlord. And so Harmony does this. He gets an answer, and then he realizes, oh, this other kid has an Eye of the Deep too. Let me go steal it. And so he takes it from Dross, or he takes it from Linden, realizes that Dross is in it, decides that it's not important, and then puts it in the eye. And this actually is a problem because Dross now gains knowledge. He is connected to this web of information and absorbs a lot of it. Because Dross can actually kind of, you know, intake it and make connections and do things out of it. This is valuable. And he gets a lot of information that's really important here, that will come into play in just a sec, right? So, Linden forces Orthos to advance to get him to True Gold. I can't remember how this works. I don't remember what process was done here, but they get to True Gold, and they're at the highest level that they can get to naturally at this point. We learn why Ghostwater exists. Basically, it's because Northstrider wants to create presences as a way to advance, because he thinks that this is the right way to go above and beyond the Monarch stage. But he did it too early and stopped too early. And so he didn't get around to the point that was necessary because he never thought of putting a construct. Sorry, I don't know why I couldn't say that word. A construct through the 3 different life things that he made, like wells that he made, right? Which is what Dross does. And then the last element appears to be Ghostwater. And so Dross now knows this because he connected to the Tree of Knowledge and was able to make the connections necessary, right? And this will come into play real soon. So Linden fights Harmony, and they're losing pretty badly, actually. Harmony is kind of crazy powerful, but Orthos manages to hold off Harmony enough for Dross to be rescued. And then Dross does a bunch of different things with all of the stuff that Linden has collected throughout the journey here through Ghostwater, releases a Ghostwater drop, combines it all together, and then drinks it. And when he does this, he becomes a presence, and he attaches himself to Linden. He becomes part of Linden's soul and body, and exists within and without Linden at the same time in a really cool way. And this is the beginning of Linden's kind of like growth beyond what is supposed to be possible, because now he has a presence, and they use it the same way that the Abadan do. So he gets information, he gets battle plans, he gets all of this cool stuff, and we get to see Linden become this really cool, interesting fighter, because he gets to do the thing like, you guys ever watched Robert Downey Jr.'s Sherlock Holmes movies, where he analyzes and then he makes a battle plan and then he executes it really quickly? Same idea, awesome stuff. I love this. I thought it was so cool. Then Linden beats Harmony. He takes Harmony's Underlord weapon and decides to give him mercy. He's like, I will allow you to leave with me because I have a key and you don't. Do you want to go with us? Harmony says no, and so Linden leaves him behind. And then when the portal closes back in the real world, he decides to smash it because that guy doesn't deserve to live, because he didn't take the mercy that was offered to him, right? So, fuck him. And I totally agree. Like, this is the most petty and vindictive action that Linden has ever done. It's also kind of perfectly justified because this guy wants to murder him. He's going to want to murder him even more now that Linden has beat him and has his axe. So the best way to do this and to remove a problem is to just leave him trapped in this world. And of course, Linden also knows that someone might be able to get him out. So there's no point in not leaving him behind, right? So he does this. Ethan and Geisha finally get to meet the Emperor. Geisha is given gifts to advance to True Gold. And I love Geisha because she really wants her family to succeed. And she's taking advantage of everything she can and doing it in the most respectful way possible. She's like, Emperor, thank you very much, but I'm old. This would be better spent on my family members. Can I give it to them instead? And the Emperor's like, no, I need you to be a True Gold. But because you've proven that you care more about your family than just yourself, I will also give you gifts for your family. And so, Geisha picking up Linden has worked out for her perfectly. She's living the life right now, which is awesome. Good for her. And she leaves, and then Ethan is offered his position as patriarch back at this point. And Ethan, in classic Ethan fashion, is like, you know what? Never mind. I don't want it. Screw it. Give it. Cassius can still have it. I'm gonna go do other stuff. I want to be part of the Skysworn instead. And of course, they let him because he's Ethan, and it's pretty fun. I like this interaction. Linden and the boys meet with the girls again, and yay, everyone is where they're supposed to be. And Sephora is still angry, but she's punished by her monarch. North Strider goes back to Ghostwater, figures out that there's something weird. He learns about Dross a little bit, but he doesn't understand what the point of it is, because Dross didn't connect back to the tree again, so he can't learn what became of Dross. So he just takes the information for later, sees Harmony. Harmony begs him to take him with him, and he's like, nah, I don't care. He leaves him behind, closes down Ghostwater, and Ghostwater implodes, basically. And bye-bye Akira Harmony, right? So, yeah, that's where this ends. And it was a really great book. I really, really liked it. I thought this was way more exciting and more interesting than Skysworn. I still like Skysworn, but I like this a lot more. In terms of characters here, we get Linden. He advances twice to High Gold and then True Gold at the end. Orthos is healed. Awesome. Dross is a really funny character. I like him a lot because he's not like Ethan. Ethan is a very particular kind of like wacky, just kind of like slapstick humor, I guess is what you can call it. Whereas Strauss is more sarcastic, more witty, and so I like that. I think it's fun to have those types of comedy, and it's also enjoyable because now Lyndon's perspective, when he's by himself or when he's, you know, really focused, now has a certain level of levity to it that was not there before. So it overall makes this a better reading experience. So I like that. I think it's a really nice way to introduce this character. I like Mercy a lot. I think she's really cute and she's very cool. I really enjoy her powers, but I'm a bit confused about how her powers worked at this point. I think that her page 2 powers were a bit odd. I didn't understand how they worked. And also, I think that she's great, and I like that she has a more accelerated timetable to her development than, you know, Lyndon and Yaren, because we basically didn't learn anything about Lyndon and Yaren until book 3, essentially. And Mercy has only taken 1 book to learn more about, right? But at the same time, I also feel like there hasn't been that much development, and I would like more so that we can get to the same level of understanding for all 3 characters, so that we can, you know, have them be together and be a team, right? But it is what it is. Harmony and Charity are interesting because, well, Harmony's just a dick, and it's understandable why, in the sense that he's kind of like Neji, right? He's a genius, but he's also kind of in an odd position, and he got shown up by Mercy, so he has this like complex about him. So I guess he's more like Sasuke, but he's kind of that type of character. Whereas Zeal is interesting because it's funny that he's a depressed Loki, and I also think that he'd be a really interesting character for Lyndon to become friends with. And I think that does eventually happen, but I'm not sure how it goes about, right? So I really am interested in learning that journey to friendship and to having Zeal be a character that is prevalent, right? So I would like to see more of him. In terms of world building, we get to learn more about different factions. So we get introduced to the dragons and the Beast King. We get to learn more about the Akura family, and it turns out that they also have a special bloodline power, and it happens to be like Susanoo armor that just generates naturally, which is really cool. So Mercy gets attacked, and her body automatically creates like a breastplate, which is awesome. So I like that. I think that's cool. Presence creation is explained, really interesting. Although we don't know if this is how Abadan create their presences. This is like North Strider being a weirdo and just managing to make it happen regardless, right? We learned about sages and heralds and monarchs, but I still don't understand the difference, so I would have liked that to be a bit more clear, but it's not that important. And we also learned that there's a tournament coming, but we don't know what that entails, right? So cool stuff overall in terms of role playing. It's nice. And I'm very excited to see what comes next, right? So yeah, the one thing that I kind of don't understand at this point is, what is a bloodline power? Well, I mean, I know what it is. It's a Keka Genkai, right? It's the same as Naruto. It's a special ability that a certain clan develops over time that becomes a staple, and that anyone of a certain level of purity in their blood happens to get. At the same time, I feel like these sorts of things would happen more in isolation than they would in, you know, more egalitarian and well-populated, diversely populated areas like the Black Flame, right? So why does Lyndon's family not have a bloodline power? I mean, the answer is probably because Will White didn't think about it until Ethan. But I feel like if these groups of people have practiced the same type of path forever, in the same way, for as many generations as they have, and they've lived in this isolated place, one of them should have been able to create a bloodline power for their family, right? Unless you have to be a certain level and then create an ability and then tie that ability to your body in some way, which we know that these characters can do at some level, right? Like maybe it's a process that happens later on. And so because no one in the Sacred Valley has been able to get to that point, they don't have a bloodline power. I'm not really sure. I don't know if it's a genetic thing or a spiritual thing or a combination of both, right? So that's another question I had. In terms of artwork, there's none. And because basically only male characters interact with male characters and female characters only interact with female characters for this book, there really is no chance for any innuendo or anything like that to happen, right? So yeah, in terms of rating, 4.5 out of 5. Like I said, it's nearly perfect, but I feel like Yaren and Mercy's part of the story didn't really have too much going on. I feel like they barely got to do anything. I wanted more out of the Skysworn as well, and I think this is going to be a thing that's going to happen, and I'm going to say for the rest of these reviews for this section of the story. I still think that their hate for Linden and Yaren is very unjustified. Like, I think at this point we know that Byro had something happen to him relating to the Blood Spawn, and Renfei is just following orders, but you're doing it with such vitriol and at a level that doesn't really make sense to me. Like, okay, the Black Flames are bad and evil, but Linden is clearly not like a Black Flame family member. He just learned Black Flame from Orthos. That doesn't mean that he's evil. Like, you don't know anything about this guy. Why do you judge him based on like the original Black Flame family? Like, unless paths dictate your personality, which has not been the case so far, it makes no sense for Byro to have this like hate boner for Linden. It makes more sense for him to have a hate boner for Yaren, especially after the end of the last book, where she actually becomes like a representative of the Red Moon Hall, because she does the same thing that they do, which is, you know, fight her blood spawn, absorb it into themselves, and make it like a secondary presence or like a secondary body for themselves. Like, that makes more sense, but still not enough, because she's clearly the prodigy of a sage. Why does that, like, if you hold the sage of the Endless Sword so high, in such high regard, why would you not hold his disciple at the same regard, even if she has like something that you hate, right? Like, I feel like that's kind of odd, but you know, it is what it is. So that's kind of my only complaint here. But overall, great book. If you guys have not read Cradle yet and you somehow watched this video until the end, please read Cradle. It's really, really awesome stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and see you guys later.